Today's kids may not truly understand considering the myriad of options available to them right now. But at one point, within the video game landscape, Halo quite literally ruled the world. The Halo franchise was an absolute titan, one of Xbox's secret weapons with a lead character that was so iconic that he nearly single-handedly established the console. I mean, Halo had it all. Great characters, incredible world, incredible ideas, both story-wise and gameplay-wise, and the music, which may be as recognizable as the Master Chief himself, was amazing. It influenced tons of games, basically launched online multiplayer and esports, and changed how many stories would be told in the future. So of course Halo fans wanted a movie. Why wouldn't we? Everything about the franchise seemed perfect for it, and the marketing for the game made it seem very possible, especially when it came to Neil Blomkamp's trailers, which still remain as some of the biggest what-ifs when it comes to what we could have gotten. And then Halo died. Some say it happened back in 2012, others 2015 after Halo 5. For some, Infinite might have been the final straw, a game that story-wise wasn't bad at all, but gameplay-wise became less about the innovation and more about copying the games that were originally inspired by Halo. A bit ironic actually. Still though, there was quite a bit of excitement for the Halo show when first announced. I mean, all they really had to do was transition the fully fleshed out story to live action. That was literally it. Even if they wanted to change some things, which I'm certain almost all of us expected that they would, it was still very much a layup. And yet somehow, Paramount still found a way to make it a difficult shot. I mean, between the manufactured conflicts that didn't make sense in the grand scheme and the focus on characters that nobody wanted to see, the show made it seem like no one cared about the franchise. Then Master Chief took off his helmet and kept it off. And we really knew they didn't care at that point. Which is why it's hard to see the positives of what they were trying to resort to with season 2 of the Paramount show, especially when it comes to retention marketing. Retention marketing usually refers to the tactics companies and brands use to nurture and maintain relationships with customers, or in this case, what franchises try to do in order to keep the fans that got them there in the first place happy. We have good examples of this, but unfortunately we have many bad examples as well. But, and this is also ironic, one of the better examples that we ever got from this actually came from Halo. Let's go back to 2012. We're 5 years removed from Halo 3, still largely considered one of the greatest shooting games of all time. Halo 4 is set to release in the late fall, but they can't rest on their laurels. Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Battlefield have eaten into their market share in a major way, with Call of Duty specifically taking home positive reviews across the board as the now first-person shooter king. After about a decade on top, Halo needs something to generate excitement, not just for original fans, but for new ones as well. 343 Industries, who had taken over from Bungie, decides to create a live-action web series on YouTube to drum up excitement. While the plan was to introduce a new character, who would later end up being Tom Lasky, the number one thing 343 Industries does is to make sure that the series, by any means necessary, does not break canon. They go so far as to have a representative on set at all times to drive that point home. And all of that matters because despite wanting to bring in new fans who could potentially watch the web series without ever picking up the game, the last thing they wanted to do was annoy the longtime fans that made Halo popular in the first place. They knew that if word of mouth suffered, Call of Duty would win. So they took a crazy chance on their marketing and used a movie that was split up episodically to sell Halo 4. And it worked. The series was well received by fans, and even major critics admitted to being surprised. It even won a couple of streaming awards to boot, and ran right up until Halo 4 was released, which was met with heavy anticipation, but received great reviews and set a new sales record on its opening day. So why the does a Halo show with 10 times the budget and better technology still struggle to get things across the way the games do? Now, to be fair to the show, they were adamant that the TV storyline was going to be its own thing and nothing like the game storyline at all. And I thought, like many did, that it was a good idea to go in that direction. However, what I think really threw fans off was just how much they were actually going to change. Forget the deviation from the source material. We knew that would happen. With that would come inconsistent character portrayals. A shame, but expected. But Paramount's Halo series decided to do something that Forward Unto Dawn thought was a bad idea over a decade earlier, and that's have an overemphasis on a new audience. You see, in recent years, the idea of a fan has become something that studios haven't truly been able to grasp. Gone are the days when fans were heard, where they were used as word-of-mouth carriers to the general audience. These days, personal projects, legacies, and backroom politics control the narrative of how shows get made, as well as the narratives themselves in some of those shows. At times, it could actually be a good narrative switch, but most of the time it tends to fall pretty flat. And because it happens so frequently with so many franchises that have been around for years, some even decades, now whenever a new adaptation of a popular franchise is announced, it's met with heavy cynicism. But one thing that adaptations have done pretty well is to make sure that the character that created the fans of that franchise in the first place is at the very least represented pretty well. Because at the end of the day, you need that character for your marketing, even if it's a bait and switch. But think of this: Sonic, Geralt, Dredd, Luffy, hell, I'll even throw Spike in there, at the very minimum are represented well, regardless of what the media eventually becomes. Which ends up becoming incredibly important because, at the base level, that's the easiest marketing you're going to get. After all, persuasion is a key aspect in marketing, so when it comes to film and television adaptations, the first step to getting people on board is to show them something that they know, and at least, seemingly, have that remain consistent. So it was perhaps one of the weirdest marketing choices to continue to not use one of the most iconic video game characters in history in the Master Chief properly. Yeah, he's there, but this is him. Something that we shouldn't actually be seeing, another timeline or not. I still stand with the many who claim that Master Chief should have never taken his helmet off like Dredd, or only taken it off for extremely important situations like Din Djarin has done in The Mandalorian. Regardless of what the showrunners like to say, that's actually pivotal to the character. So when Pablo Schreiber, who plays Master Chief, claims that it's necessary that he takes his helmet off or otherwise the story and character don't work, it shows that not only do they not know Master Chief, they don't understand retention and they don't understand character marketing either. Now I get that one of the inherent challenges in adapting a character like the Master Chief from the gaming world to a visual medium is a shift in perspective. But in the games, Master Chief is not merely a character. He serves as the player's avatar, embodying their actions and decisions. He doesn't speak a lot for a reason, and yet there's not a moment where you can't empathize with him, his situation, his history, all of which never require him to show his face. Master Chief's appeal in the games is heightened by his animatic nature and the sparse but impactful lines that he delivers. But the show goes in the opposite direction with this, so much so that they end up being forced to add scenes to further try and add to the character, like the ill-advised sex scene that was so out of character that even Schreiber himself said it was too far. At times it feels like the show forgets that the Mjolnir armor that the Master Chief dons in the games is very much a central element of his identity. Now there are some parts where I have to give the TV show credit. They actually bring the armor to life in a way that is visually appealing and faithful to the source material, and it's also practical for the demands of live action filming. Only problem is they take his armor off quite a bit in the show. And that culminates into a show that isn't utilizing their central character the way they could be, simply because they aren't adhering to the basic principles of that character. Say what you want about The Witcher, but even though we didn't get Geralt a lot, we got a Geralt that in effect is very much the Geralt that made The Witcher popular in the first place. With Halo, we don't get that, on top of the egregious decisions made story-wise that feel like they were trying to capture the elements in a number of TV shows rather than focus on making a good Halo show. It's understandable that the Halo show is managing lofty expectations that fans are bringing to the table, but it's because of those fans that the show even exists. The character of Master Chief has been shaped by years of gaming experiences, themes, and ideas. It would be asinine to assume that fans wouldn't have a preconceived notion of how he should be portrayed, but meeting these expectations while also offering something fresh and engaging requires a careful navigation of fan desires and creative vision. So if the show is to continue, only time will reveal the extent to which the TV show succeeds in capturing the essence of Master Chiefs as the games did. But as a brand character, the central figure, and one of the most popular characters in gaming history, the show will just exist as yet another example of Hollywood not really knowing what they have in front of them. Honestly, they were really on some BS. They did not have to take his helmet off.